Red Bull has finally made up their minds about its lineup for 2025. It was announced this week that Sergio Perez would be leaving Red Bull Racing with immediate effect, and that Liam Lawson would be the one stepping up from VCARB after having only completed 11 races across the previous 2 seasons. Next year will mark his first full-time season in Formula 1, and fans cannot wait to see how he will perform. But before we make any predictions, let's have a look at how Liam Lawson came into F1 to begin with. Liam Lawson caught the eye of Red Bull in 2019 after winning the Toyota Racing Series. This prompted the team to sign the New Zealander into their junior programme and get him into Formula 3. The Kiwi had to get used to the series in his first year, but managed to get on the podium on 2 occasions. He finished 11th in the 2019 F3 season, but came back much stronger in the 2020 season. Competing against the likes of Oscar Piastri, Logan Sargent and Jack Doohan, he secured 3 victories and 6 podiums, finishing the season in P5. This amazing result meant that Lawson could advance to Formula 2, where cars were even faster and the competition much fiercer. In 2021, he drove for High-Tech GP in a Red Bull livery and found himself delivering solid performances, winning the first sprint race and taking a total of 3 podiums throughout the season. This saw him finishing the year in 9th place. His second year in Formula 2 was much more eventful. Lawson was fighting at the front of the field and scored 10 podiums, winning 4 of those. He was in a close battle all year long and managed to finish 3rd overall. Red Bull began to take notice and signed him on as a reserve driver for the year. This meant that he would get a behind-the-scenes look at their operation, test drive in the simulator, and get that much closer to make his dreams come true, becoming an F1 driver. Sadly, once you've proven that you can compete in Formula 2, there's nothing really left to do. So Lawson moved away from F2 and joined Super Formula in Asia for the 2023 season. Here, Liam proved to be very competitive, winning 3 out of 9 races and just missing out on the championship. But his success in Super Formula wasn't his biggest achievement that year. During the Dutch Grand Prix weekend, Daniel Ricciardo would get injured during practice. Lawson was called up for the first time as a reserve driver to fill in while Ricciardo recovered from his wrist injury. The New Zealander had limited time to get comfortable in the car, with only 1 practice session ahead of qualifying. He lined up last for the race and battled his way through the grid. He encountered the likes of Charles Leclerc and Yuki Tsunoda and proved victorious as he beat his teammate by finishing 13th. After the race, it was announced by team principal Franz Tost that Lawson would remain in F1 for the foreseeable future, as Ricciardo's injury was quite serious and they didn't want to take unnecessary risks. There would be 4 more races where Lawson participated as stand-in for Ricciardo. The standout performance was Singapore, where he managed to get into the top 10 in both qualifying and the race, scoring his first F1 points. For the 2024 season, Lawson returned to his test driver role, but he went into the season with hope. Given the fact that Lawson had performed so well during his short stint, it was made clear to all Red Bull Racing affiliated drivers that mid-season swaps were on the table if they didn't perform well enough. Red Bull started the year on a high, dominating every race. VCARB were struggling to perform, the car was unbalanced and points weren't being scored regularly. As the season progressed, Red Bull's advantage disappeared and Sergio Perez was unable to keep up with the top 4 teams. VCARB managed to get some good points in some races, but too many mistakes cost them their shot to fight with teams like Aston Martin and Haas. After the summer break, it became clear that Daniel Ricciardo was on the chopping block and Lawson was to be promoted for the final 6 races of the season. Red Bull increased the pressure even more by making the final quarter of the season a shootout for the Red Bull seat occupied by Sergio Perez. What followed was an amazing couple of races where all bets were off. Perez continued his poor form throughout the final races of the season, meaning he struggled to get into the top 10 on many occasions. Given that VCARB was always on the edge of points, Liam Lawson and Sergio Perez would find themselves on the same stretch of asphalt at every race. During the US Grand Prix, Mexico Grand Prix and Brazil Grand Prix, we'd see some amazing defensive driving by Lawson, keeping the Mexican behind for most of the race. Things got heated on track as Lawson showed Perez the middle finger on the main straight during the Mexico Grand Prix. The Sao Paulo weekend is where Lawson really shone through. He got the car through the wettest race of the past 3 years without crashing the car. He showed serious pace in the wet and was just behind his teammate Tsunoda. If it wasn't for an incident with Piastri, who knows where he could have finished in the end. Despite that moment, he still managed to keep Perez behind and scored 2 important points for the team. The final races of the season were less eventful for Lawson as the car proved to be lacking in pace and points were not in the picture. However, Lawson had impressed the team by outscoring Perez in 4 out of the 6 races and Tsunoda in 2 out of 6 races. These results prove not only what he is capable of, but how far he could still go. The situation at Red Bull was tricky. Since Perez had signed a contract extension earlier in the season, it would be difficult to fire him. Tsunoda had been with VCARB for the past 4 seasons and has gradually increased his performance, while Lawson came into F1 swinging and making daring moves while keeping the car in one piece. In the end, Red Bull saw the untapped potential in Lawson and decided to offer him the place next to Max Verstappen for 2025, a driver who is known for beating his teammates by large margins and wrecking their confidence. Following the news, Lawson was very excited to get started. To be announced as an Oracle Red Bull racing driver is a lifelong dream for me. This is something I've wanted and worked towards since I was 8 years old. It's been an incredible journey so far. I want to say a massive thank you to the whole team at VCARB for their support. The last 6 races have played a huge part in my preparation for this next step. I also want to thank Christian, Helmut and the whole Red Bull family for believing in me and giving me this opportunity. I am super excited to work alongside Max and learn from a world champion. I have no doubt I will learn from his expertise. I can't wait to get going. Christian Horner was very happy with his announcement. I'm delighted to announce that Liam Lawson will join the team in 2025. Liam's performances over the course of his 2 stints with Visa Cash App Racing Bulls have demonstrated that he is not only capable of delivering strong results, but that he's also a real racer, not afraid to mix it with the best and come out on top. His arrival continues the team's long history of promoting from within the Red Bull Junior programme, and he follows in the footsteps of championship and race-winning drivers such as Sebastian Vettel and of course Max Verstappen. There's no doubt that racing alongside Max, a 4-time champion and undoubtedly one of the greatest drivers ever seen in F1, is a daunting task. But I'm sure Liam can rise to that challenge and deliver some outstanding results for us next year. When asked about the decision between Lawson and Tsunoda, Christian Horner said the following: "It was very, very tight between the 2 of them. I mean, Yuki is a very fast driver. He's got 3 or 4 seasons of experience now. He did a very good job in the tyre test for us in Abu Dhabi, where the engineers were impressed with how he performed. But we just felt with Liam, when you look and go into the analytics of his race, the pace was slightly better in the races that he did. His qualifying pace was very tight with Yuki, and you've got to assume that the potential with Liam having only done 11 Grand Prix is he's only going to get better and stronger. He's shown real mental resilience and toughness. The engineers have enjoyed working with him throughout the running that he's done this year. He's got a good work ethic as well. So it's great to have Yuki still involved with the Racing Bull scene next year. And of course, he's on standby should he ever be required." When asked about the pressure to perform next to Verstappen, Horner had the following to say: "I think the key thing is to not put too much pressure on him and not put too much pressure on himself that he's going out against the best driver of his generation," Horner continued. "I think that he just needs to almost ignore the data of what's going on car 1 and just focus on his own engineering team, what he's doing, and just do the best job that he can and he'll be fine. And hopefully we can support him in that. Hopefully we'll be able to provide a car that suits him as well as Max next year, and we'll see how that goes," concluded the Red Bull team boss. The Formula 1 2025 grid is finally complete. And with Lawson's announcement, it is sure to be one of the most promising seasons of the past years. Do you think Lawson will rise up to the challenge and be in the mix for podiums next year? Give us your take in the comments below.